And we welcome you to another edition of Bleav in Giants and the Mangia Cast. They come together. Bob Papa, Carl Banks, Chris Bizignano. Exciting time for Giants fans. And Carl, I know you have work to do tonight, so you can't join us. But we usually start the show with a little chin.
Little vino. Yeah.
Little chin. He's got the Mangia Cast glass. And tonight we are.
Banksy, check that out, Banksy. Look at that, baby.
Yeah, and I brought some really good wine from France too when I was away. So I'll have to join you guys again another time.
All right. Well, we're going with Dow tonight. Our good friends at Dow Wineries out in Paso Robles, a little cab. And then tonight we're going to teach our audience how to make a nice carbonara. Carl, you like a carbonara?
Nice. I do like a carbonara.
Easy to make. We're going to show you how to make it. And Joe Shane's going to join us here on the program. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball is in full swing into the NBA, NHL playoffs. BetOnline has ways to stay in on the action, latest odds, scores, live in-game betting. Can you imagine the in-game betting during the U.S. Open? When there were 5 guys at +1 with 90 minutes to go.
Oh, my God.
Largest selection of odds on everything. MLB, NBA, NHL, UFC. BetOnline remains the best online source for all your sports wagering. BetOnline Casino, top Vegas-style games. You can go into the live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here. Carl, OTAs are over. We're going to get into the veteran minicamp. And you know what that means to me? It means that training camp is literally right around the corner.
It is. And, there's so much you can take away from the OTAs, but you're only looking at how guys are moving because there are no pads on, and it's hard to evaluate your offensive linemen, and your defensive linemen should look great in all of the pass rush and, the blitz periods because nobody can lay a pad on them. And if they weren't looking great, then I would be concerned.
Biz, your take so far on this offseason?
Yeah, like Banksy just said, there's only so much you could take from it. But there's other things you could take from it, too, from when you're talking to the players, when they're at the podium call, and that's the leadership of Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
This is a guy, that I think we all agree on is heading to Canton, right, one day.
Yeah.
And for him,
yeah.
And
he's
go ahead.
No, the thing that stands out, and and I know I've had some interaction with him, but everyone you talk to, you sum it up, and I say it, he is chronically positive. I mean, it's chronic. It's chronic, the positivity that he exudes, and it's every day as he wakes up. He's not a robot, but this is who he is.
Yeah, Carl, obviously this is the first time we're around Russell, right? And I'm impressed about some of the things these guys are saying as far as that he gets everybody involved, Banksy, Pop, as far as you could be third on the depth chart. And Russell is talking to you. Russell's making sure you're on the same page as him. Sure. I found that pretty impressive. I mean, everybody says that, Carl. Every player we have talked to this spring has said the same thing, that this guy is an incredible leader. First one in the building, the old adage, first one in the building, last one out of all that stuff. But the way he interacts with his teammates, and let's face it, Carl, Bob, I'm sure you, like me, we've heard some stuff about Russell from other organizations. But when he's in his building, the way he's been here, I mean, I've heard nothing but positive stuff about him. And
I think
really
that's
seem to
good,
like him.
Biz. Yeah. I think it's great because it's a young roster. And to have a veteran that's willing to work with young players. And the one guy that I am most happy for is Jalen Hyatt. I mean, he is really feeling confident out there. You can tell, but you can also glean something. You talked about when players are at the podium. I gleaned something from Darius Slayton when he said, normally when they call shot plays, it's the ball normally goes underneath. He's deep to short, and he communicates that with his receivers. So it's a safety read, and so there's no indecision by the quarterback to receiver. The receiver knows if that safety's coming down, be ready for the ball because it's coming. So that's the professionalism and the seasoned skill set, I guess you can say, with Russell Wilson. He's seen it all. All
right. So in Tom Coughlin fashion, our guest is 5 minutes early. So let's welcome in the general manager of the New York Football Giants as he joins us here on Bleav in Giants and the Mangia Cast as we've come together in one fell swoop. The general manager of the New York Giants, Joe Schoen. Joe, welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm great, guys. How are you guys doing?
We're
doing
good.
awesome,
Now
Joe.
we have a little Dow going. Do you got anything good going?
I wasn't informed that that's the type of party it was going to be. I wish I'd have known.
Hey Joe, do you like a carbonara?
I do. I do like carbonara, and my wife and I went to Napa. Gosh, I can't remember 2020 maybe, and we went through Dow. Big fan of that.
It's a good space. Well, I'm going to teach you. It's so easy. I whipped up a carbonara tonight, and we have a little video, and we'll send you the recipe, and you can pass it along to your wife if you want. I don't know if
Pop,
you cook much.
Hey, Pop, I already got the text of Joe saying, "Hey, Chris, I don't cook." Just to let you know.
That's like Biz.
So you can pass. It's like me. Hey, Joe, I'm the same way, brother. I can
pass the recipe along. I can definitely do that.
Biz
I'm
can't
pretty good
boil
at that.
water.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, we were talking about this before you came on, but we're at the end of the OTAs here, and you have the veteran minicamp starting. Really, it's like training camp is around the corner for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's we get 4 weeks here to enjoy a little bit of downtime, but you're excited about the way the spring's been. The free agency, the draft. You're really excited to see the dividends from the offseason, but you also really looking forward to stepping back and taking a deep breath and getting away from things for a few weeks before we get going. But yeah, it's plus OTAs. We're going a little bit later than most teams. The mandatory minicamp this week, so it seems like a condensed vacation this year, but. So it's exciting in terms of moving towards the season, but also, excited about stepping away here for a few weeks.
Before
Joe,
Carl and Biz jump in, Carl, I just want to follow up on that. Joe, as a general manager and a head coach and Coach Dable and an ownership, though, when you let him go, do you really get a good night's sleep? Just hoping, like wondering, am I going to get that one phone call?
Yeah, knock on wood. That's always in the back of your mind, and they're pros now. They're adults. We give them the the saying each year just about being smart and staying off forerunners and or 4-wheelers and being on boats and all that stuff. We just parasailing, parachuting, any helicopter, all that stuff, man. Just be smart in the off season. Make sure you get away, clear your mind, but also, make sure you're in shape and ready to go, and just be smart about what you're doing. And, again, you're now, especially for the rookies, like people know who you are now when you're in the NFL. So, be aware of your surroundings and the situations you put yourself in, and, just be smart. And yeah, you're right. You don't want to wake up to one of those phone calls in the middle of the night, and knock on wood, we haven't had anything like that happen since I've been here.
Yeah, you got to almost send them home with a package of bubble wrap, Joe. So much has happened since the end of the season to where we are now. And, obviously it wasn't a great year, and there was just so many more questions than there were answers. But it seems like putting together another draft and fans actually seeing the talent level go up. Right. And it seems like that kind of improves how everybody looks at this, because your approach when you first got here is you got to clean up some salary cap stuff. And it restricted the way you went shopping. Right. And you constantly said, I can't shop hungry. So you just had to shop with what you had. And now it seems like you've gotten the cap under control. You've had some good drafts, and it looks like now you're shopping like it's the first of the month. and you got a check, right? And you can go out and you can sign the type of players that actually fits the vision of your head coach from a personnel standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, it was a great first year. The run in the playoff run was awesome. And, we were trying to overcome some of the, the financial constraints. We actually had to cut, players to get under the salary cap. And then, again, something I learned when I was in Buffalo, try to have leadership in every room. And, to acquire that leadership, a lot of times that takes financial resources if you don't currently have it on the had a good first year there. And then, again, year two, a lot of injuries didn't go as planned. And, we moved on some players. And again, we just, after that first year, the success, we ran it back with a lot of the same players. And again, it just didn't work. So again, we had to shift our plan a little bit. You're always reflecting on decisions that you made, why you made them, but we're in good salary cap health now. We've been able to have some flexibility the last couple of years. Last year's draft, I consider that, after year one, those guys, contributed. They were big time contributors for us last year, and look for those guys to get better year two. And then the initial dividends from the guys this spring has been really good, as expected, in terms of the guys that we took and what we expected out of them from a physical skill set. So that coupled with, a couple good free agency classes, bringing guys from outside the building, in the building, not just the right type of guys, but also guys that can contribute and fit we're looking at from a scheme standpoint, also a personality standpoint. So, I think the vision is starting to become clear, from the outside looking in. Sometimes you just got to go through it. And we've been through it. And I'm looking forward to coming out the other side.
Picking players is not an exact science. And, when you have a very thin talent base, just based on the restrictions or that you have fiscally, it's hard for fans not to focus, right? Because if one of your players goes down, you're thin, like from a talent perspective. And now you can, and it's a lot easier, would you agree, just in your experience, that when you have better talent and you have to move on from a player, nobody really cares because you're feeling that with productivity. Is that what you, in your experience, what you've seen?
Yeah, and you're right, because as you're building it, you're not instantaneously going to have great depth across the board, and you're not going to have frontline starters at every position. It takes time to acquire and build that. And I talk about a lot, like in Buffalo, we didn't win a playoff game till our fourth year. It took time. That was 17. They hadn't made the playoffs for 17 years. A little bit of similarities in terms of making the playoffs the first year and then continuing to build it. So it does take time. It's not easy to let people walk, but there's a certain way to. There's a lot of factors that go into it when you're trying to build a team, whether it's draft capital or financial resources, like you were speaking of earlier. So, it's difficult, but it also takes time. We had a personnel meeting today, and there's certain positions since we've been here, we just haven't had a really good depth. And now we have really good depth at that position now. So it's inevitable. Injuries are going to happen. Roster attrition is going to happen. And, it's trying the best you can to be able to remain competitive when those things happen. So, we feel good about, a lot of the frontline guys, but also our depth players right now.
Joe, before you jumped in, we were speaking about Russell Wilson and his leadership. Has he been everything you expected? Because, Joe, everybody that speaks to us, every player at the podium, they rave about his leadership. They rave about how he's the first one in, you're the old adage, first one and last one out. But that he goes up to, I was talking about this before you came in, about he's speaking with guys like that could be third on a depth chart. They're making sure everybody's on the same page. Has he been everything you expected?
Yeah, he's been phenomenal, and he does. He can communicate and interact with anybody on the team, whether they're the best player on the team or the 90th player on the roster. Last week he made a comment about an undrafted free agent. Like, I'm telling you, that guy can play. Like he's paying attention to everybody, and he recognizes that. And just the leadership, the ability not just to lead one side of the ball, but the entire team. He's shown the ability to do that, and that's helpful for the coaches. Sometimes the coaches get sick of having to say everything and coach everything and be on every single detail. And when you have a player that can lead those meetings and be on the same page with the coaching staff in terms of the attention to detail, I mean, that really takes a lot of weight off the coaches. And yeah, he's been phenomenal so far. The interactions have been great. The leadership, still being a fairly young team, bringing in a vet that has a lot of skins on the wall, won a lot of games, won a Super Bowl. It's been a really good addition this far.
Yeah, I want to ask you about Jameis too, as far as that's concerned, because yes, he is the darling of the Giants social media team, whenever they need to put something out. But, the guy's been in the league a long time and he's had his levels of success. Talk a little bit about what he's added to that room.
Yeah, same deal. The quarterback room is really good. I know there's been a lot of talk about it, and there's different personalities, but there's also some veteran leadership. And Jameis has been through it, the number 1 pick in the draft. He's started a ton of games in this league. He's won a lot of games in this league. So comes from different coaches. He's been under Sean Payton, who I've got a lot of respect for. A lot of good offensive coaches throughout his career as well. So the diversity of knowledge and experiences coming into a room. Even Tommy DeVito, he's got the most experience in this system. So he's been good for the 3 other quarterbacks. So the dynamic's very interesting in there, and it's really good right now. And there's really good chemistry in there. It's just, again, trying to get full quarterbacks reps. But Jameis has been another good addition that has leadership to him, leadership qualities, great personality, outgoing. Same thing as Russ, the attention to detail and working with some of the younger players and be able to speak up in an offensive, meeting room. And, again, he's got the skins on the wall, the knowledge and the experience, that a lot of the young players listen.
Joe, when you look at the quarterback room, and obviously you're not going to talk about your strategy, but, there's a shortage of experienced quarterbacks in the league. And you just happen to have, a couple really good ones that, are in the cupboard. And then you drafted one, and then there's Tommy DeVito. So you have 4. Football, as Coach Parcells says, some of these things take care of themselves. But you feel really good about any way you want to go with that quarterback room. You feel comfortable that you'll start the season with the right core of guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where every one of those guys, except for Jaxson, have won games in this league. And then Tommy stepped in the last 2 years, and for an undrafted free agent, has started a lot of games. He's won games for us. Again, his familiarity with the system. He's in the 3rd year of being in the same system. So he's had a phenomenal spring. Tommy's looked really good out there. He's been very consistent. When these position battles come up, you can go one of 2 ways. They just drafted a guy and signed these 2 new guys, and you can sulk and feel sorry about it, or you can go out there and compete your tail off. And Tommy's done that.
Sure.
He's been phenomenal, again, with all 3 being an undrafted free agent, but his 3rd year in the system, he's been helpful, to Jameis, Russell, and Jaxson. So just ton of respect for what Tommy's done as well. I know a lot of the focus is on the other 3, but yeah, it'll be a big, August for these guys. I'm looking forward to seeing how the competition plays out. Again, part of the offseason plan, when you're building depth along the offensive line, you're thinking about, hey, in the second quarter of that preseason game, let's make sure that Jameis or Tommy or Jaxson can get a good look. And there's enough depth on the O-line that these guys will be able to stay on their feet and execute an offense. So, I think we've got enough depth there. We'll be able to get a good look at, all those guys that are competing for those roles.
Hey, Joe, one thing I've noticed about the spring, especially OTAs, is the intensity of these practices. Look, let's face it, Joe, last week there was a little skirmish broke out. You don't see that in OTAs, Joe, much.
No, you don't. You love the energy. And again,
but I love it, Joe. That's what Joe, that's what I was getting at. To me, it's like, this has been a pretty intense OTA practices, which I love, Joe, which everybody seems to love. Last year, me and you were talking, and I said, hey, your draft class, these kids are wired the right way. This draft class seems to be wired the right. You're bringing in guys, Joe, that really seem to reflect what you and Dave's want. And that's guys that love the game of football. Joe, you've been around a long time. You're a national scout, area scout. As you know, you might play in the NFL, but that doesn't mean you love football, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a conscientious effort. Yeah, it's a conscientious effort. And some of that, the elevated competitiveness and what you've seen in practice is some of that, some of those free agents we brought in. It's Javon Holland, it's Paulson Adebo, those type of guys that have been around, Chauncey Golston, and they've really elevated the competition on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, so, bringing in Abdul as well, and then some of the vets on offense. So it's spirited competition. We just got to do it the right way and make sure we're not going over the line. But yeah, there's been a different feel this offseason for sure, through this period of time, and the competitiveness, offense, defense going back and forth. Sometimes offense wins a period, defense wins a period, but it's from the get-go. We're talking about getting off the fast starts, and I've really seen that this spring in each of our OTAs, and look forward to seeing it the next 2 days. But getting off to a fast start, guys being locked in at the beginning of practice, and then raising the the competition, and a little bit what Carl was saying earlier, just better players. The competition. Those guys are super competitive, and that's continued to rise as well. So it's been a really good spring. It's been very positive from that standpoint.
Joe, I can tell you one observation, and when you look at the scouting reports and they talk about players, and there are players that they say jump off the screen, right? And I can tell you from experience, looking at Abdul Carter, he's different. Like, he moves different. And when I say that, Brian Burns is an established guy, right? Kayvon Thibodeau are established players. And in their own right, they do things really well. And then you look at him do some of the same things. He's like, this is different, right? And I had that experience. My rookie year, I walk on the field and I see 56. And I'm like, he's different, right? He practiced faster than I ever played in a game in college. I mean, everything he did was just, it was different. And he had we had great players on defense, but you can just look at a guy and you say, he's moving different. Like, and it's not to diminish anyone else's skill set, but just that is truly what it means to jump off the tape when you look at it. But if you see him in person, just even in drills, you get excited because he's different, right? And I don't know what that translates to, but it's just, you could just tell he moves different.
Yeah, that always makes you feel. People say, why do you go on the road in the spring and or in the fall and go see these guys? And that's what it is. Like, I saw him against Ohio State and I saw him against Notre Dame, and exactly what you just said is what I felt at the game. It's like confirmation. Like, that is different, whether it's the quick twitch, the ability to bend and fight that side pressure around the corner versus a tackle, whether it's working inside on stunts and games, chasing a guy down to the outside. He just, and you mentioned Burns. Burns is different too now. Like, you see those guys out there, and then Dexter and Kayvon and Chauncey, and so it's always good when your draft picks come in and you take a deep breath. Like, I've been in places before where you get a draft pick in and you're like, it moves a little bit different than, or maybe it's not what you thought it was going to be, but he's definitely been as advertised this spring. And the guy loves football, loves to practice. Again, even though he's a young guy, he loves to compete and has helped elevate the competition throughout the spring as well. So I'm really fired up to see what he can do this camp, and look forward to a good season out of him.
Joe, is it too early to say that there's an identity forming, or is that something that will manifest itself during training camp in the preseason?
Yeah, I would say both sides of the ball, it'll manifest itself, but on paper doesn't mean anything. So you got to go out there and do it. So defensively, obviously, some of the additions that we made along with some of the guys that were here, we expect to be better on defense. And again, just it's up to the team and the players themselves to hold each other accountable and start to develop that identity, as we go into fall camp, both sides of the ball and on special teams. So again, I feel like we've upgraded the roster, both sides of the ball, and those identities will definitely start to take shape, as we go into the fall. I think some of that's already taken place too with, some of the energy that you guys have seen out there practice in the competition. And, I feel that will continue into to fall camp.
Speaking of energy, Joe, Jaxson Dart seems to be a ball of energy. He has energized his fan base, right? I mean, talk about him, man, and what you're seeing from him and everything. He seems to be all in on everything. He seems to love football. He's a tough kid. We know that from Ole Miss. I mean, you have to be happy with this guy so far.
Yeah, he's done a good job so far this spring. And again, a testament to the quarterback room and Tommy and Jameis and Russ that, they're accepting of a young quarterback. It's a competition now. These are all jobs. So he was welcomed with open arms from all those guys, which I appreciate. Those guys' professionalism and, accepting him, teaching him, mentoring him, bringing him along. Which has been good. So he's been good so far. Again, it's a lot to learn for a rookie quarterback. There's a lot of moving parts. You have to know what everybody's doing, and then you have to go out and execute in a short amount of time. And Dave's likes to put these young quarterbacks in difficult situations, which he's done throughout the spring, and Jackson's answered the bell. So again, looking forward to getting the pads on, live reps, installing the offense again this fall, and seeing what he can do. But really good teammate, has some leadership to him. We got to teach him how to slide and not try to run people over, as he did at Ole Miss. So there's definitely a learning curve for these young players, but we're excited what he's showing so far this spring.
Well, I mean, Abdul cautioned that to him at the Giants Foundation golf outing when he was talking about, I like to lower my shoulder, and Abdul's like, not so fast.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a rookie on a rookie. Wait until a grown man who's married with kids. It's been in the league for 7 years.
Quarterbacks learn quick on those Monday mornings after Sunday games. That sliding's a good thing because they start to feel it after a couple of weeks. Then they don't want to be so tough anymore after doing that.
Yeah.
Hey Joe.
So Joe,
go ahead, Carl. No, you go.
No, I was going to say
you're in the Ring of Honor.
My last question in terms of how you guys are evaluating this process, right? There's enthusiasm, and you seeing what you're seeing now, and you're saying, okay, we're checking some boxes here. Looks like we made the right decision there. Now, as a collective, right, a team that came off a very bad year, is now the next phase with all this enthusiasm is to say, okay, let me see what it looks like when they get hit in the mouth. And then
Absolutely.
How they respond there will tell you exactly how close you are to being the team that you think you put together.
Yeah, absolutely, Carl. And that's what, I usually say it at the, in my preseason presser before camp starts, is it usually takes about 4 games to really figure out who we are as a team. What do you do when you do get punched in the mouth, or you're down 7 or you're down 14 on the road? Do you have that fight in you to scratch and claw back? Do you have the killer instinct when you have a lead to go finish a game? Do you not self-implode? So yeah, there's a lot of those things, and those have all been emphasis throughout the spring. Dave's done a really good job of game situations and, preaching the attention to detail and not beating ourselves. Some of the stuff that, happened to us last year. So, can we be a team that's disciplined? Can we execute when the stakes are high? Can we stay on sides? Can we not have penalties? Can we catch the ball when the game's on the line? Those are all things that, we've talked about, and we have to go out and do. So as many of those situations we can put our players in so they can prepare for that, the better off we'll be when it comes to, game speed. And, getting off to a fast start was another thing. We've got to be able to start faster. We've started slow the last couple of years. So the emphasis will be, coming out and getting into a fast start. So can we do all of those things? And again, we've added leadership. We've added some more talent. So, again, hopefully those guys, some of the new leaders and the leadership that we have will help in some of those areas.
Joe, just to follow up with Carl here, Andrew Thomas is obviously a stud, but as Carl likes to say, it can't be a Jenga, right? Like if he goes down, it can't all just kind of disintegrate. Do you feel that you've done it? You have enough there that you can weather some injuries, not season ending, obviously, but weather it a little bit on that offensive line?
Yeah, and that's why we signed Hudson in the offseason. We drafted Bo, so we have some depth there. So we're happy with our 3rd and 4th tackles. So again, you hate to have to do that. You would really love AT to be out there, for all 17 games, but you do have to protect yourself. And so that's another area where we added some depth. So yeah, whether it's there, inside linebacker, corner, safety, interior D line, outside linebacker. We feel good about some of the depth that we've added. So if, again, there's certain players you just cannot replace if they're injured, but you got to do the best you can. And, you got to continue to, the games are going to go on, and you got to, next man up. and they've got to be able to go out and execute. So over time, we've slowly been able to add and develop more depth, across the roster. And again, ideally those guys don't get injured, but if they do, I do feel like we're in a better position today than we were a year ago.
So, Joe, one of the things we like to do on this show is, it's a little bit of lifestyle, right? A lot of people are asking what kind of T-shirt you're wearing right now.
This is the library. So this is Oxford, Mississippi. It's a little bar there called the Library. So
somebody picked that up. Yeah.
Somebody
picked that up quick. Yeah.
Yeah. John Gruden asked about it on, when he did the thing with Jaxson Dart, but when we went down there and dropped my daughter off, everybody was like, you got to go to the library. It's not the library. So it's actually a bar. So went there, hung out, got to know the owner a little bit. We had mutual friends. And through that, struck up a friendship. So we like to go in there whenever we go down to visit my daughter. It's a really cool spot to visit. It's always packed. It's great on game weekend. So one of my go-to places in Oxford, Mississippi.
All right, yeah. One of our viewers picked up on that right away and watched it live on YouTube and nailed it. Joe, I want to ask you this. You started with Carolina as a scout. You and Carl have something in common. You both learned under Bill Parcells. Just talk a little bit about your journey from where you started to where you are right now, and some of the steps along the way, and some of the people that influence you tremendously.
Yeah, I would say I'm fortunate that I was able to, sort of touch all the bases along the way. Like I didn't skip a step. I started as a scouting assistant, which is making highlight tapes and picking people up at the airport, doing all that stuff, just kind of proving yourself that you can do the job, and, no job is too big for you. So it started off with George Seifert was the head coach at the time when I started with Carolina, and we won our first game on the road against Minnesota. We were 1-0, and then we lost 15 straight. So that was a rough first year in the league. That was Steve Smith's rookie year, Dan Morgan, Chris Winkie, some of those guys. So some foundational pieces. But then I became a national scout. They moved me out to Texas. Marty Herney became the general manager once George Seifert was gone. So he was very influential in my scouting career, and just teaching me, not just because he came from a football operations side, so the football operations part of it along with the scouting. He was very good at consensus building. He didn't necessarily start off watching film, but he could sit in a room, and if it was the four of us, he could come to a consensus between the coaches and the scouts and where to place people. And we had some really good drafts there in Carolina with Marty Herney, and they went to another Super Bowl when I was gone, and I think they had 11 of the 13 Pro Bowlers he had drafted. So very grateful for Marty. And then I went on to Miami. While I was in Carolina, I got to know Dan Henning, who was he's been a head coach a couple times in the league and a longtime offensive coordinator. And he was great because he never bought a house in Carolina. He would just stay at the Residence Inn. So when the scouts would come in, he was so happy because there's 10 people to hang out with. And I don't know if you guys know Dan Hanger, and I'm a great storyteller, wealth of knowledge, super sharp guy. And I could sit there and listen to him tell football
I see him in
stories.
Publix every so often down here.
Do you? Yeah. I mean, if you see him, he's the best. Go up and talk to him. He was phenomenal. Just not just life, finances, saving money, whatever it may be. He was so good to me. And he actually is the person that gave my name to Coach Parcells and Jeff Ireland in Miami. Hey, there was a scout in Carolina. You guys should interview him. So went down there, and then again, Jeff Ireland and Bill Parcells were great to me. It was a new system. It was a different way of scouting, different way of management, different leadership that I hadn't been around. And Coach Parcells is very similar to Dan Henning. I'm just this young scout that just got hired, and he was always a coach. Like, hey Joe, are you thinking this way, or why would you do that? Why aren't you looking at it this way? When I was younger, Tom Landry told me, and I'm like, Tom Landry told Parcells, who's about to tell me. So I had a notebook, and I was taking all kinds of notes. But he was awesome. Like, he would pick up the phone if you called him. He was so good to me. And then going on and working with Brandon Beane in Buffalo, that was invaluable because he was a little bit like Marty. He came up on the operations side and then shifted over to scouting. And he always knew football. He could have done whatever he wanted to do within a football operation. And he's the same way. He's touched every base along the way, and again worked his way up through the NFL ranks. And he introduced me to the salary cap, just managing people, the coaches, dealing with staff members, just the whole football operation. So that was an invaluable experience for me too. So I'm very fortunate to be around some really good football minds, some really good scouts, some really good leaders, throughout my career. And, I've just been very fortunate now with, John Mara and Steve Tisch leading the organization and the amount of experience they have. They've seen a lot, over the years. So even just picking their brains on different things is invaluable too. So, I think it's important from a leadership, position to surround yourself with smart people that have a lot of knowledge and have been a lot of experiences, because by no means do I have all the answers or ever will. So it's important to have, a circle around you that's educated, smart, hardworking, that you can bounce ideas off of and can also give you ideas. And, I learned that, a little bit of that from a lot of those leaders that, I was fortunate enough to work under.
Joe, I'm curious. When did you decide that you wanted to go into the scouting department? I mean, you played some college football, right? When did you say to yourself, you know what, I want to continue this. I want to be a scout. I want to be involved in this league.
Yeah, when I interviewed for the job, I didn't really know what I was getting into with scouting. I was a Division III football player. Like, we just got a piece of paper and a scouting report. It really wasn't detailed, and that was some GA doing that. So I interviewed with this older gentleman. He was a director of player personnel, Jack Bushofsky, and I got the interview because I had done an internship with Brandon Bean as like a football operations and training camp before my senior year of college. And he said, "Hey, we're gonna have a job open in scouting. Would you like to interview for it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just want to do something in sports. I want to do something in football." Didn't really know I want to do scouting. And on the interview, this guy, Jack Bushofsky, who I love to death, I should have mentioned him as one of my leaders because he was so hard on me, but I needed that as a young kid out of college. And this will tell you a little bit how we interacted. And he's like, "Well, do you want to scout?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just want to get my foot in the door. I'll do whatever it takes." And he's like, I don't know if you can cuss on here, Matt. He's like, "I don't effing want somebody that wants to get their foot in the door. I want somebody that effing wants to scout." And I'm like, I was like, I didn't get this job. I didn't get it. So here's a crazy story. I don't know if I've ever told anybody this, but so I'm like, there's no way I got this job. I go back to school, and Jack was from Pittsburgh, and I want to say there was they also interviewed a kid from Slippery Rock or something along those lines. So Ryan Cowden, who was with us before, they called to offer that kid the job. Well, he answered the phone like at 8 a.m, like groggy, like, "Hello," like he was sleeping. Jack hangs up on him, goes down to Ryan Cowden and says, "Hey, you think that kid from Indiana still wants this job?" "Sure."
Oh,
wow.
I get the job. So Ryan told me that story once I got the job. But I mean, you talk about like, what if that kid answers the phone all chipper? Like, maybe I'm not sitting here today. So just those little stories.
Wow.
Or the luck. But
I mean, that's a breaking story from Joe Schoen on the Mangia
That
Cast.
is.
Bleav Giants. Joe, thank you for that, brother.
Yeah. So when did I ever think I wanted to scout? Once I got into it and started figuring it out, and I'm driving to work every day, and the stadium is my office, and I'm out of practice. And at the time, George Seifert's the winningest coach all time, and I'm around all these people, and I'm just like, this is amazing. And it quickly became a passion of mine. Short time after I took the job.
Hey, Joe, quickly, are you tough? Are you tough on your scouts? Go scout.
Not like that. I don't know if you can talk to him like that anymore. A little bit sensitive, but I needed that. I needed that tough love. That's how I was raised, and he was very direct. And once he knew he could trust you, he was gold. Yeah. He treated me like gold. So he was awesome. But I needed that early on, just the attention to detail of the job and the importance of that, and getting in early and staying late. He was phenomenal. I was very fortunate to have worked with Jack.
Joe, other thing that the guys that you were mentioning, they all had great instincts, right? And the job that you have, you've got to have, obviously it's an information business. The seat you sit in, you got to get a lot of information. But when you look at how you were able to get back into the first round to get Jaxson Dart, and you had all the information, you never know how the draft board is going to go. But instinctively, did you have like a gut that he was going to be there? Or at what point did you say, I think we got a shot at this kid?
Yeah, that was the stress that kept you up at night. Just you're trying to predict what other people are doing, and you're not in their room. So you try to gather as much information as you can. And it was like we rolled the dice, and didn't make a move to, I think it was Denver. And then we just, we didn't know what Pittsburgh was going to do. Like we didn't know, they didn't have Aaron Rodgers at the time. So we didn't know what was going to happen there. Then we felt good once they didn't take a quarterback. We were going to have a deal done with another team a couple picks back, and then they bailed on us, and another team, then you couldn't get it. Then it became stressful. Because I thought if we got by Pittsburgh, no brainer, we'd be able to get it done with this team that we had previous conversations with, and we weren't. So that's really when it became stressful. And again, we didn't know. We knew Pittsburgh, Cleveland, New Orleans were teams that would potentially need quarterbacks, and ultimately they all ended up taking quarterbacks. So we had that part right. We knew that those teams would be targeting quarterbacks. We just didn't know which ones, and we didn't know where they were, going to be targeting them. We thought maybe if we, you waited to the second round, Cleveland sitting there with the first pick in the second round. So would they take him? Would he be there? So again, it's a quarterback. If you like him, go up and get him. And, again, he checked all the boxes along the process, and has been really good for us so far.
All right, Joe. So you're embarking on year 4 in New Jersey, which almost makes you an honorary Italian, especially since you're in North Jersey. You got
and he looks Italian, Bob.
Look, Banks is full-blooded Italian now.
Full-blooded Italian now,
in New Jersey.
I can take you to a lot of restaurants, good Italian food for sure.
Joe, you got a favorite place that you like to take your wife?
Yeah, there's a place up here by us called Varka. It's a really good place up here. We go. They got good steak. They got Italian. They got a little bit of everything. So it's a good spot. That's our go-to up this way near Franklin Lakes.
All right.
What's your go-to meal, Joe?
What's your go-to meal? Because we ask everybody this question.
So I like rigatoni with vodka sauce and put grilled chicken in there.
Oh,
there you go.
I made that a couple episodes ago.
Could have made that for me?
You.
So yeah, that's my go-to. I love to get that at any place to serve Italian. That's one of it's usually not on the menu, but that's easy to make.
No sweet Italian sausage. You're going chicken?
No, I go chicken. I go grilled chicken.
He's still not fully Italian yet.
Yeah, we'll get him there. We'll get him there, Bob.
Yeah.
Hey Joe, are you aware? Are you aware that the voice of the Giants is an incredible chef?
I've heard that. When I found out that I was coming on here, I'd heard how good of a chef he was. So, have you guys tried? You guys, I guess you don't get to try his food here, though.
No, well, not yet. We're gonna do a show live in New York at some point.
Yeah.
So we're gonna. But here, we're gonna show you. Lindsay, let's show him how. Carl likes to cook. Biz can't boil water, and Joe's wife will love this recipe. So, Lindsay, let's show him how to
make.
Joe,
I'm with you, bro.
A carbonara. It is so easy. A simple carbonara. Only 5 ingredients. I've got my pasta, my rumo. Got a little pepper. Got to have the locatelli, pecorino romano. Gonna need 2 egg yolks, and I have some guanciale, which is pork cheek that I'm gonna chop up. Biz, next order of business, we chopped up that guanciale. And now we're going to just let this brown. All right, so you can see the guanciale is nice and browned. So we're going to get this out of here and just put this on a paper towel and let this dry. And we're going to save a little of that oil because we're going to need it later, but we want to keep it off the heat. But you have some nice crispy guanciale. Here's the consistency you're looking for. Got the egg, the pepper, and the pecorino romano. And nice paste. Just sauteing a little bit in that guanciale oil. Pretty easy, Joe. And I put a little pasta water in here. Now we want to just mix it up. Carl's gonna make this.
Pop, I think I can even make this.
No, you can't boil water.
Pasta water do its magic. Pop.
The reason why we want it
I'm looking at this, Bob, and I'm saying I need a nice vermentino to go with that.
Cheese pepper mixture. Get it into our pan. So you just put that paste in there, as long as it's not on the heat, or else you're going to get scrambled eggs.
Do you go and buy all this stuff yourself?
Begin working some magic.
If you go in the store,
we haven't gotten any food deals yet, Joe. We're working on it. You see, it's developing a nice.
I don't know if you Instacart all this or how that works.
No, I actually go
pasta water
by hand. Guanciale, there's only one place in Florida I've found that you can get guanciale. Up north, you can find it in a lot of places. We want it nice and creamy. Just keep working it. There you go, Biz. In this pan. Biz is taking notes. Hot, but I think Biz's wife steals all the recipes.
Yeah, she is. She's been stealing a few of them.
No scrambled
It
egg.
is.
Here's our carbonara.
It does look like eggs.
It's not eggs. It's cream. It's the
I
cheese.
know.
And
I
the
said
egg
it does
and the
look like.
pepper.
I'm fooling around. I said it does look like eggs.
No, you can't scramble any eggs.
that
Put a little
on there.
guanciale on top.
Joe, what do you
A
think?
little more Italian.
That's delicious. This is where I like to come in. Like all I come in just to eat
When
it.
it's all done.
More black pepper.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I have a proposed trade for you, Joe.
What's that?
And just a
This is
little
from
bit of cream.
this is from Rick Bowman, but you're not really a cook, so you might not be able to answer. But they wanted us to ask you. There's
Homemade
the
carbonara.
carbonara,
One
hot
of
off the
those
plate.
awesome.
Really only took 20 minutes. There's a picture of it. Rick Bowman wanted to know, Joe, if guanciale isn't available for the carbonara recipe, do you use pancetta or you target a completely different dish?
Targeting a complete different dish.
Joe, what's your favorite wine? Because you mentioned you were out in Napa
If
and you did visit.
If I'm not paying
now.
for it, I'll take Opus. But if
Okay.
I like Silver Oak, I like Camus.
Good. That's good choices. We got to get Biz onto the upper ones. All right, Carl, you have any other questions for Joe? He's been a good
Nope.
sport tonight. Biz, you always
Appreciate
have a
you
question.
coming
Joe,
on.
really
Joe, let me
appreciate
ask
giving us
you
some time.
this. Let me ask you this.
Oh, this
I
ought
was
to
doing
be
my
good.
Biz impersonation. Will you get a chance to get away a little bit?
Yes, yeah, I'm gonna get away for a little bit.
Good.
Vacation's a little bit shorter this year, but yeah, I'll get away.
Don't
relax.
drop your phone in the water this time.
That ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me, even though it stressed me out for the first couple of days. Once everybody knew I was okay and they could just call my wife if they need to get a hold of me. But I was in the I don't know if everybody else knows that story, but I was on vacation.
Right?
Yeah, I was in Maldives, and
Yeah.
we had these little bikes as you're riding. That's your transportation on the island. So we're riding it and looking around, and I was doing a video, and I dropped my phone, and it went under the bridge and then right into the water, and it lasted for about another 3 hours. So I went, roughly 8 or 9 days without my phone, which was awesome.
Beautiful thing.
It was great.
I just did that in Paris. I logged
you?
off of everything. Yeah, for 9 days.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. You just did it on your own? Just turn it
Yeah.
off?
Yeah, when I
That's
go on
awesome.
vacation, I'm pretty good because I tell my office I'm done. Don't reach me unless there's an emergency, and
Right.
they normally don't.
God, that had been awesome. I bet you loved that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure Mr. Mara and Mr. Tish would not want Joe's phone completely off.
I was
Hey,
thinking
Joe.
the same thing, Bob.
Joe, round of applause for Joe.
Yeah, Joe, thank
Hey,
you.
we
for giving us
appreciate
Thank
time.
you,
you
Joe.
coming on.
Appreciate
All right,
it.
guys.
Thank you,
We
Joe.
can send you all the recipes. We can send you all of them, and you can use them or have your wife use them. But we appreciate you taking some time to join us here on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
we
you,
will.
man.
It's the general manager of the New York Football Giants, Joe Schoen, joining us here on the program. And Carl and Biz and I will wrap things up here. But yeah, it was fun. I like the personal stories. Look, I know there's a lot of people on here and they're asking all kinds of questions or whatever, but it's like, look, there's a long way to go. Like we're at the very beginning of this. It's kind of like the scouting of it's like charting OTA throws. This is all like the learning part, Carl, right? I mean, this is
Yeah, I mean,
This is-
listen, this is the enthusiastic part. This is when you see the guts of the operation, right? They're moving around, they look better, they've got better talent. So you check that box. Then they're going to put on pads, and you're going to see an appreciable improvement on your offensive line. You're going to see appreciable difference in your defensive backfield. And so you check that box, right? People are going to be at camp and they're going to say, wow, Deontay Banks looked totally different. Well, that's the Adebo effect, right? They're going to, everything's going to look better because they have better players. And then the lights come on. You're in a division that they're going to want to punch you in the face because that's what they're used to doing. They're accustomed to punching you in the face, and they're accustomed to you not being able to respond. Now, with the talent you have, let's see what your mentality is, right? You're going to be able to compete. 3 of the 4 teams in the division you can compete with you've been competing with. Now, when they punch you in the face, can you collectively punch them back and execute your plan?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say a big thank you to Empire State Sports Report. She's been on all night. Her husband's favorite
Adriana.
dish is carbonara. Yeah.
That's Adriana.
Yeah. Adrian.
Adriana. Now she's a real Paisan Pop.
Yeah, well, I like that. So, Carl, it's one of those things, and I thought you brought up a good point, being able to punch back. I love what they've done on the defensive line. I mean,
sure,
they have added some, not only Darius Alexander, who they drafted, who I think is going to be tremendous, but the depth that they added, and it really comes back to that old line. Carl must have had a little internet situation there. We'll get him back here just to wrap it up. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be excited about. We're still in June.
Yeah.
So let's not get over our skis. But I think this team is poised to be a fighting team, like Carl said.
Correct. And here's the other thing I will caution, not the fans, but the actual players. Don't get high on your own supply. And I'm saying that don't read all the press clippings about how good you are. Have the quiet confidence to go out and execute. Because once the fans show up at camp and they see a team that's night and day from a talent perspective than where they was last year, the year before. Like, they actually have talent. When a guy comes off the field, there's another guy that actually looks like a football player. Don't fall into the trap of when they start to heap praise on you. Act like this is where you're supposed to be. Act like we knew it before you guys saw it. Yeah, this is the standard. And the bar is low right now until you start to beat some teams, right? And that's where this mentality has to be with this football team.
Yeah. I like what he's doing, Carl, Bob. I like what
it's hard not to.
Is doing.
It's hard not to. You've got real football players.
Exactly.
You know,
he brings in a veteran here.
Yeah.
He brings in a veteran, Russell Wilson, that can win you some games, He brought in the right veteran, right? He brought in from a standpoint of, okay, we know he's an experienced guy. We know he can play the game, but he's also the right veteran for a young team. Yeah.
And that's important, right? Because like I said, he's chronically positive. He's a leader. He's seen it all. He's been through adversity. He's been through divided locker rooms, so he knows what a good one looks like and he knows what a divided one looks like. And he can caution these players to a man. We're moving in the wrong direction as a group, or we're moving in the right direction as a group. Let's keep good going.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and we're getting a lot of.
Jameis is the same way, by the way. Mm-hmm. Jameis is a guy who'll go to bat for anybody on his team as well.
Yeah, good teammate.
We're getting a lot of comments in here about, this all comes down to Shane Bowen. We've discussed this on the Mangia Cast. We've discussed it on Bleav in Giants. You've discussed it on Giant Insider Newspaper Podcast. It is what it is. Like, the proof will be in the pudding, okay? Because barring severe injuries,
and he's capable. Yeah.
Right, and despite unless there's like these horrific injuries, you got the cards there, you got the ingredients, to make a carbonara. Now just make it.
Yeah,
plain and simple.
And I think he will, Bob. I sincerely do. And when I say he's competent, that's not a diss. That's the baseline of you having a guy who actually knows what to do, and I Bleav he does. Last year, I took him to task. This year, and I've had conversations with him, and he was hamstrung in some areas. But I think if he went back and looked at the season, I'm sure he saw where he could have done some things differently to prevent teams from popping you in the face with the same play every single week, right? There are some things you can do, but he has better players now,
He's got
and I think he's
better
going to make
Jimmys and
good use of
Joes.
it. Yeah, exactly.
A lot better Jimmys and Joes. Hey, I want to give a shout out. We had Jerry Dulac previewing the U.S. Open. Great reporter from Pittsburgh, giving us some insights on Russell Wilson on last week's show. Serafino's restaurant in Pittsburgh. Jerry had mentioned that. I took a look at the menu. Fantastic. Biz, do you know a place called Bamonte's in Brooklyn?
Bamonte's?
Yeah.
I think he might mean Del Monte's, but I don't know if it's Bamonte's. No, I don't know.
Il Contro in Manhattan, folks. It used to be
Which one?
in Il Contro. Rocco Sacramone. He used to have, his restaurant was in Astoria, and it was still ranked amongst the top 10 Italian restaurants in all of New York. He's in the city now. And Rocco, you'll go into his restaurant, you may not even order off the menu. He'll come to the table and ask you what you want.
What's the name?
I think
What's the
I
name called?
ordered off his menu once.
Call. What's
Pardon?
the name of the place? What's the name of the place?
Il Contro. Il
Il
Contro.
Contro.
Why don't we just
Yep,
do one
Upper
of these
East Side.
shows at some point during the
I mean,
season from the restaurant?
He'll
I
let
was
us
thinking
go
the
there. If we could, he's always crowded though, but he would do it in a heartbeat.
I know, but we'll do
Rocco's
like a
great.
Monday night, a quieter night.
Here's what I'll do, because I have a friend who's in the wine business. Maybe we'll get Salamasca to give us a little wine, and we'll go to Rocco's place because he serves a lot of Salamasca wines, and we'll have some real Italian. That'll be great. And then we could just sit around the table talk, eat, and tape.
That would be phenomenal.
I'll make that happen.
We still got to give a big shout out to our good buddy Benito, because Biz and I cooked in his kitchen a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
That was a lot of fun. Biz,
Awesome.
anything else you want to get off your chest?
No, I think that's it.
The fact that your Red Sox
Joe,
swept my Yankees? Son of a...
Yeah, I'm not
Sure.
going to rub it in your face.
K-Max says Bamonte's on Wither Street.
No, I don't know it, K-Max. Sorry, I don't know.
Said it's old school, old school.
Old school, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I have to look into that, but not in Brooklyn much anymore, K-Mac. But yeah, no, I'm not going to rub it in your face about the Red Sox. They went out, swept the Yankees, and then traded Devis.
Nice. Thank God he's out of the division.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right,
sure
Biz,
you're
how
happy about that. So.
How does we like to end with a little chin chin?
Chin chin. Banksy, great seeing you,
Chin
brother.
chin. Manja, chin
As
chin.
well.
And then Banks, how do we like to end ours?
Tell a friend to tell a friend. Believe
Bleav
in
in
Giants.
Giants, Manja style.
There we go.